Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Good to be back. So been a fun week of college hoops. Listen, it ain't slowing down. But we've had Maui. Atlantis just started. I was at the Duke-Kansas game on Tuesday night. We got the Players Era Festival out in Vegas as well. But what I want to get to now, how about this really fun Thanksgiving matchup, Arkansas versus Illinois? And it's funny, I remember talking about this when this game was scheduled over the summer. But, listen, credit to the TV execs, credit to the powers that be. The Lions and Bears are playing on CBS in the early game. And I think those TV execs said, how do we keep some of that audience, especially in the state of Illinois? Oh, how about we put the Illini against John Calipari and the Arkansas Razorbacks? So this game is in Kansas City. I'm really excited about it. By the way, we're recording here on Wednesday afternoon. There is no point spread yet. I think that Illinois will probably be a small favorite. But let's go ahead and discuss this game because I actually think these two teams have probably a lot more in common than most realize. And transparently, I think it's kind of an important game for both of these teams. From the Arkansas perspective, listen, we know anytime you talk Arkansas, there's going to be a lot of noise from national people, national media, obviously the former fan base that John Calipari coached at. And it's been a little bit up and down to start the season. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they've looked like the Harlem Globetrotters or last year's UConn team. Certainly not this year's UConn team. But the bottom line is, listen, you looked at the schedule going into this game and you said, listen, we have to be 5-1. We'd love to be 6-0 against Baylor. Well, they come into this game at 5-1. Only loss was to Baylor on a neutral. It was a 5-point game that Arkansas easily could have won. And I think that they're slowly starting to figure things out. Okay, so listen, obviously the most recent game was their best one. Now, I'm not going to oversell a 75-point win over Maryland Eastern Shore, okay? Maryland Eastern Shore is statistically one of the worst teams in college basketball. Looked at their schedule, by the way. They do have 2 wins. One of them, and I'm not being sarcastic and I'm not trying to be mean-spirited, over Gallaudet. Okay, are you familiar with Gallaudet? That is a D3, and I'm not being sarcastic. It is a D3 school for the deaf. Okay, so I'm not trying to be mean-spirited or mock anyone or whatever, but that's who Maryland Eastern Shore has beaten this year. Arkansas beats them by 75. But the one thing, and I always say this, whether it's college football, college basketball, NFL, whatever, is I will never criticize a team for blowing out a team that they're supposed to blow out. And so, one, that's the exact sign that you wanted to see coming into this game. And beyond that, I think there are some positives that are continuing to come out for this Arkansas team. First of all, they're finally starting to shoot the 3 ball better. I remember after, game 1, game 2, game 3, whatever it was, they were shooting like 25%. Well, guess what? They shot 44% in the game against Maryland Eastern Shore. I think the positive is Nelly Davis seems to finally be figuring things out. He finished with 16 points, 4 3-pointers made. DJ Wagner hit a few threes. Big Z hit a few threes. And that really has kind of been a trend the last 3 or 4 games where the 3-point shooting has improved. Again, they were 24, 25%, I think, after 2 or 3 games. They are now at 35% as a team. Now, you'd love to get closer to 40 as the season goes on, but I never believed that this was going to be a 20% 3-point shooting team all year. So they've kind of figured it out. But then obviously from the Arkansas perspective, the big thing that they have to figure out is a couple things. And by the way, I should mention this about Arkansas as well. One, I want to give credit to the defense because I think especially coming off of last year at the previous stop with John Calipari, the defense just wasn't good enough. Well, this year, I don't know how many people know this, but Arkansas top 35 nationally in field goal percentage defense, 3-point percentage defense, and so they are getting after it defensively. Listen, we got to give Adu Thiero credit. We talked about him in the summer. He's playing like an All-American right now. I don't know how many people are paying attention outside of Arkansas. Adu Thiero averaging 18 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals and 2 assists per game. Okay, so he's stuffing the stat sheet. He's looking really good. And I think there's a lot to like from him. Obviously, Big Z has played really well. But the big question for Arkansas going forward is going to be 2 things. Is one, How is the three-point shooting? And then I think as importantly, they got to get the big guys healthy. I was going to say Janelle Davis. Jonas Adu is struggling right now to get back on the court. He has not looked like himself even when he's played. Trevin Brazil took that nasty fall. I think it was an ankle injury about 3-4 games ago. We have not seen him. And the bottom line is you're just not going to be able to compete at the highest level and win the games you need to if Big Z and Adu Thiero are the only big guys that you have. And Adu Thiero is obviously like a 6'7" wing, much more than he is a traditional big. So that's kind of the Arkansas perspective. From the Illinois side of things, listen, they're kind of in the same boat as Arkansas. They're 5-1 coming into this game. The only power conference team that they've played is Alabama. And it was a game like Arkansas. They had a chance to win, but they couldn't take care of business. And really, Alabama kind of largely controlled that game. But Illinois kind of made it interesting late. It wasn't a game. I probably missold that a little bit right there. I don't know that it was really a game that Illinois was ever really in position to win, but they did, to their credit, they fought right down to the end. What you need to know about Illinois, like Arkansas, they're actually very young and very inexperienced, especially playing together. You know, you think about a team that made the Elite Eight last year. We knew they were going to lose Terrence Shannon Jr. after the season. We assumed that Coleman Hawkins was going to go pro. He obviously ended up transferring to Kansas State instead. But you look at this team, it's almost brand new from a season ago, and I still think they're trying to figure things out. Good news is they got some dudes over there at Illinois, okay? Will Riley, let me give him credit where it's due, because I really, listen, for people who forget, he was a 2025 player, decided to reclassify. I am one. I'm always dubious about those guys. It's just so tough to step into college basketball and compete right away, especially a year ahead of schedule. And so for him to come in, he's averaging 18 points per game. He's actually been Illinois' best player through the early parts of the season. 18 points per game. And I think it's also worth noting, shooting a very solid, to say the least, 54% from the three-point line. And really watching Illinois against Alabama, that is the one thing that they do pretty well. Statistically, it doesn't look great, 33%, but some of the other guys on the team that really stood out, not only in that game, but early so far, Ben Hummerkaus, he was a transfer from the Missouri Valley. Thought he just looked like the perfect kind of stretch four, pace and space kind of four-man that you kind of need in this era of basketball, not just in college, but really across the sport. Outside of him, obviously the true freshman, Kasparis Jakushunis. I apologize if I tripped over his name, but he's a kid that people are projecting as a lottery pick. I really like him a lot. He's a big guard that kind of controls the game. Listen, I'm just comparing his game. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as, but kind of reminds me of a Luka Doncic, not super athletic, but gets to where he needs to, gets to his spots on the floor, makes plays, all of that good stuff. Then, of course, in the middle, the big man, we got to talk about, how about this? It's an Ivisic party, baby, because Tomislav Ivisic, obviously Big Z's brother, plays for Illinois, and he is really their low post presence so far this season. Obviously, they have Morez Johnson Jr., but it's really been Tomislav Ivisic who's really kind of been the man in the paint, 16 points and 9 rebounds per game. And obviously, to be transparent, we all know that that's a key matchup, Big Z versus Tomislav. I saw some quotes from Big Z that said, yeah, I always used to beat him in the driveway when we were kids, so I will see if that plays when these two teams get together. Let's go ahead and give a pick and prediction in this game. And I'm actually, again, we don't have a point spread. I actually do like Arkansas to win this game. And I know whenever somebody like me says anything positive about Calipari, about Arkansas, oh, Calipari, Torres, you're such a Calipari homer. What are you talking about? Blah, 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 this and that. How could you possibly say that? Well, here's the thing with Arkansas. It is, one, as I said a minute ago, the defense has actually been really good. Like, I know the competition hasn't been great. I'm not saying that they've played, the best schedule that anyone's ever played. But at the same time, you can only judge a team based on who they've played and how they've looked. The defense has been really good. And I think the bigger picture issues for Arkansas, I don't know, come into play in this game. What did we talk about from big picture issues? Size and depth. Well, Illinois is not a team that throws a ton of really big bodies at you. I mentioned it. Big Z's brother, Tomislav Ivisic, is really their low post presence. Again, they have a kid named Morez Johnson who comes off the bench, but this isn't, whoever that's got a bunch of 7-footers. I know Duke is statistically the tallest team in college, but that's not who Illinois is. And I don't think that is going to be as big of an issue for Arkansas as it will be when they play, a Kentucky with Amari Williams and some of the guys that Kentucky has, when they play some of the other, Auburn with Janai Broome. Arkansas has to get their big guys healthy, but I just don't know that this is the game that is going to hurt them. So one, you have that. Two, here's the other thing. Illinois, I know I just said that they look like a good three-point shooting team. Statistically, they're not shooting the three ball very well. And so if you're not shooting the three ball well, that's kind of a blessing going against an Arkansas team that defends the three ball really well and is starting to shoot it better themselves. And so when I look at this game, listen, I know nobody wants to give Cal credit for anything. I know nobody thinks that he's ever going to win a big game the rest of his career. I do like this matchup for Arkansas. And you go back to the Baylor game, again, Baylor was the best team they played. Baylor was a game that they easily could have won if a few things went their way. And here's the other thing about the Baylor game. You know who killed them in the Baylor game? Norchad Omier, 15 points, 12 boards. There is no Norchad Omier on Illinois. And so to me, I'll say Arkansas wins this game 74-68. I think Arkansas gets the win and the first big victory of the John Calipari era. If you enjoyed this video, do me a quick favor. Make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Pod and Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day. And most importantly, as you know, hope everybody has a great